All right, let's jump right into this explainer for GoodCarpetGuide.com and talk about how to transform a DIY carpet job from a messy amateur hack into a seamless factory quality installation. Look, if you're a homeowner staring down a massive, crazy expensive roll of new broadloom in your living room right now, you know exactly how stressful that first cut can be. When you're dealing with hundreds or even thousands of dollars of material, one wrong slice can literally ruin the whole project. So you are exactly in the right place to get this perfect. So why do so many DIY carpet jobs end up with those frayed, highly visible seams that just scream amateur hour? Well, it actually all comes down to a few hidden professional rules regarding physics and specialized tools. We're going to uncover those today. The difference between a gorgeous showroom finish and a complete disaster usually comes down to just a few millimeters of technique. It's not just about having a sharp blade. It's about intimately knowing how carpet is actually built and how it's going to behave under tension. Our roadmap today is straightforward. We'll cover choosing the right tools, prepping and marking safely, mastering the back cut, navigating the face cut, and finally, avoiding those all-too-common DIY mistakes. Okay, step 1. Let's talk about choosing the right tools and getting your setup right. We really have to start with your equipment. Grabbing whatever standard utility blade happens to be sitting at the bottom of your toolbox is your very first major mistake. See, standard utility knives use a trapezoid blade with a pretty thick profile. When you try to pull that through heavy carpet, it creates this awful wedging and shearing action. You end up having to use an immense amount of physical force, which frankly inevitably leads to violent slips, jagged edges, and literally tearing right through the structural fibers. True carpet knives, on the other hand, use extremely thin, slotted, or hooked blades. They are engineered for controlled, effortless slicing action with minimal friction. You literally just glide through the material. Plus, they've got these specialized ergonomic handles that'll completely save your wrists during a long day on your knees. Now, the crucial reason why a clean slice matters so much brings us to a concept called tuft bind. Think of tuft bind as the physical lock holding the individual loops or cut fibers tightly within the primary carpet backing. If you use a dull, thick trapezoid blade, you don't just cut the backing, you crush and tear it, and that completely destabilizes the tuft bind. If those fibers come loose, you're left with a frayed, ragged edge. And here is the real nightmare. When you apply hundreds of pounds of pressure with a power stretcher later on, a compromised tuft bind will literally unravel. You will ruin the entire piece, have to throw it away, and head right back to the store to buy more. You absolutely need razor-thin, clean slices to keep that factory bind perfectly intact. Moving on to step 2, prepping and marking safely. This is your essential foundation. So it's totally crucial to understand that even with the absolute perfect blade in your hand, improper marking can permanently destroy your carpet before you ever make a single cut. Let's do a quick forensic breakdown of chalk lines. You must absolutely avoid red or black chalks at all costs. They contain permanent synthetic dyes that are specifically designed to survive rain on outdoor construction sites. I have heard absolute horror stories of homeowners using red chalk to mark a line, making their cut, and ending up with a permanent neon pink line glowing right through the fibers of their expensive new white plush carpet. It instantly ruins the face fibers. Blue chalk, also highly risky and semi-permanent. You'd probably need harsh acids to remove it. Your only truly safe bet here is white chalk. It's made of natural talcum, zero dyes, and it just brushes right out with your hand without leaving a trace. All right, section 3, let's master the back cut to size down your sections. So this is our first actual cutting technique, the back cut. This is exactly how the pros size down those massive, heavy broadloom rolls into manageable pieces for your specific rooms. The secret here is following these mechanics flawlessly. First, you notch the boundary on the edges. Then, you snap your safe white chalk line across the tough secondary backing. Third, and don't skip this, you must place a rigid seaming board underneath your cut line. Why? To protect the face fibers of the carpet rolled up directly below it from getting sliced. Finally, cut using a straight edge. But listen closely to this pro tip. You must keep your blade at a perfect, dead center 90-degree vertical angle. If you tilt your wrist even slightly, you create a beveled edge. When you go to push those two angled edges together for a seam, they're either going to overlap to create an ugly mountain in your living room floor or gap to create a highly visible valley. So perfect 90-degree vertical cuts only. Section 4 brings us to navigating the face cut for top seaming. Okay, but what happens when you need to seam two pieces together from the top, where you can't just flip the heavy carpet over? That's where face cutting comes in. The ultimate pro secret here is manually separating the yarn rows first to create a safe lane for your blade.
You can use a specialized row separator for this, but honestly, a standard ballpoint pen held parallel to the floor works wonders for a DIYer. Just drag the smooth tip firmly between the tufts to part the sea of carpet fibers. Then you insert a cushion-back carpet cutter right into that pre-opened channel. The sheer beauty of this tool is its flat bottom glide. As you push it forward in one smooth, highly satisfying stroke, that flat base physically lifts the aesthetic face yarns safely out of the way of the internal blade. It keeps the cut perfectly centered, ensuring you never accidentally shear off the beautiful top fibers you paid so much money for. Now, if you're dealing with a cross seam, things get a little tricky. A cross seam runs perpendicular to the manufacturing rows, meaning there's no natural channel for your ballpoint pen to open up. If you just hack at it from the top, you're going to cut right through the loops. The trick here is to physically bend the carpet widthwise, basically folding it back on itself to make the backing smile. Bending it tightly like that forces the density-packed loops apart, revealing a tiny hidden path called a false row. Once you've exposed that path, you can use a pair of heavy-duty duckbill carpet shears to carefully and methodically snip your way across, completely avoiding the yarn bundles.
Section 5. Avoiding common DIY mistakes. Consider these your forensic warnings.
For our final section, let's learn exactly what not to do by looking at the most common, costly execution failures that totally plague amateur installations. The first major failure involves something called the selvage edge. The selvage is the factory stitch edge running down the side of the carpet roll directly from the manufacturer. Think of it exactly like the crust on a piece of sandwich bread. The crust is totally different from the soft center. It's dense, uneven, and less stable, right? On a carpet roll, this edge suffers from highly uneven yarn tension during the weaving process, and it frequently lacks the strong latex pre-coat that binds the rest of the carpet together. A seasoned flooring pro on Reddit perfectly summarized the golden rule regarding this issue. They said you never, ever seam or finish off the factory edge. Look, it's incredibly common for a DIYer to want to save money and material, so they try to use the perfectly straight factory edge as one side of their seam. Psychologically, I know it feels incredibly wasteful to take a straight edge and slice off 1 to 2 inches of brand new carpet you just paid for, but seaming directly against that selvage guarantees a weak, fuzzy joint that will eventually fray. You absolutely must trim that crust back to reach the dense, fully bonded, stable yarns before making your seam. Furthermore, you must pay intense attention to the nap direction, or the pile sweep. Carpet fibers lean naturally in one direction. Think of it like the stripes left on a freshly mowed lawn, or those light and dark lines you leave behind when vacuuming a plush rug. If you cut and join 2 pieces of carpet with the pile sweep facing in opposite directions, the ambient light in the room will reflect completely differently off the 2 panels, even if they came from the exact same roll. It will leave a permanent visual defect that literally looks like you installed 2 entirely different colors of carpet right next to each other. So always slide your hand firmly across the fibers of both pieces to make absolutely sure they smooth out in the exact same direction before committing to your cuts. Finally, let's talk about perimeter over-trimming. This is a mistake you simply cannot undo. Carpet isn't static. It has to be stretched into place. A power stretcher will expand the carpet by up to 1.5% to create proper structural tension across the room. Just imagine this nightmare scenario for a second. You spend hours meticulously trimming your new carpet so it sits perfectly flush and tight against your baseboards. Then you hook up your power stretcher and crank the lever. The immense tension pulls the entire carpet across the room, and suddenly you are staring at a massive 2-inch gap showing bare subfloor along your entire starting wall. You can't uncut it. Always leave a 2 to 3 inch overlap riding up the walls until the power stretching process is totally complete. So now that your seams are perfectly straight and structurally sound, you are one massive step closer to a flawless showroom quality floor. You've mastered the precision cuts of the pros, you're keeping your blade sharp and perfectly vertical, and you've learned exactly how to avoid those catastrophic, expensive mistakes that ruin most DIY jobs. But getting your cuts right is really only half the battle. So the question is, are you prepared to conquer the immense tension of the power stretcher next, or will your pristine new seams buckle and pop under all that heavy pressure? Keep learning, keep practicing, and good luck with your floors.